Hi, and welcome to Three Questions with. Got my buddy Ryan Rourke with us. Hey, Ryan, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Just living the dream, brother, every day. No other options. So,
Yeah.
Ryan, I asked you to come on the show today because for a lot of my friends, they have employees, and in some instances, sadly, they've had to lay them off. But I wanted you to talk to me a little bit about health insurance
Sure.
because, some people are excited, hey, I get to collect. And then they realize they don't have health insurance. What can an employer do?
Right. It's a tough question because a lot of employers are in different categories. Some of them just found out that they're essential. I mean, as soon as yesterday. So luckily, if you fall into one of those categories where you work with either a state, maybe a construction job, you work with the state, you work with healthcare, you thought you were maybe getting laid off, you're not. So great. So that there's a whole segment of people that don't have to worry about it. But for the people that do, essentially, if you're getting laid off, you basically companies will terminate your health insurance. Now, everyone would have Cobra as an available option, but as we were just speaking, that Cobra is obviously you're paying the full premium, so it's going to be expensive. Might even be more than you make normally. So a lot of companies, what they're doing is furloughing folks, and furloughing is the only major difference between that and laying folks off is they're kind of still on the books and it's like a temporary perspective. A layoff is essentially termination with no expected return date, whereas furlough, you can have an expected return date, 2-3 weeks. What a lot of companies are doing, and this is going to vary based on companies, their cash flow and whatnot, you can essentially keep your folks kind of on the books, so to speak, keep them on the plan, so you don't have to have them worry about the health insurance aspect of it. The problem is that if you're going to essentially go and try and obtain insurance somewhere else, you have to show a loss of coverage. So I guess that's more of a discussion between the employees and the employer about, if you're laying me off, what's the termination date of my insurance so I can go out and try and purchase new insurance. A lot of that, none of the regulations have come out with healthcare reform and all of the marketplace, the ACA marketplace, because essentially you're eligible to jump onto that on a non-open enrollment cycle if you lose coverage. So I guess that would be the discussion between the employer and the employee. What's my loss of coverage date? Can I jump on to one of these, Massachusetts healthcare reform marketplace plans? But then again, you're paying the full premium again. You can pick and choose your plans. You can pick kind of a low coverage plan, but in this day and age right now, having health insurance, pretty important.
That's for sure. The other thing that sometimes we forget as employers is just the mental health of ourselves as well as our employees.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I said, maybe you're quote unquote lucky enough to be an essential employee and you're still getting paid, but you still have concerns, especially you're working in retail.
Right.
Am I taking a risk of getting sick when I'm bringing this home to my family? So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what can an employer do to try to be as supportive as possible?
Sure. One of the least utilized benefits that almost every employer has, at least larger employers has, is what's called an employee assistance program or an EAP plan. Sometimes it's a built-in component to having like a disability plan. You can have it on a one-off basis. My company is KGA, so they're an offshoot. They're a specific EAP provider, and what they do is that I can give them a buzz, or I can log in, or I can face chat, and it's essentially mental health, and you get essentially free visits. So some of them have more robust. You can have up to 8, quote unquote, face-to-face visits. Obviously, that's not going to happen these days. Or sometimes it's 2 or 3. And what it is, it's a way to just get your first. You have some issues. You're dealing with financial strains. You're dealing with mental health strains. You're dealing with cabin fever. Give them a buzz. They can sort of triage you in a way and kind of work with your health insurance company, because all health insurance companies cover mental health. So you can just, if you have an existing therapist, feel free, obviously. But this EAP is good for folks who've never really utilized it before. Everyone has, maybe your company has an HR person and they're great and they're awesome, but sharing kind of personal data with them, maybe you're not comfortable doing that because you actually still work with these folks. And they're bound to HIPAA. They can't tell folks, but it's, practicality is that maybe it's awkward. So these EAP providers, they're off-site, they're faceless, they're someone that you can deal with. that, you know, a lot of companies have had in their arsenal for years, but they've really just started coming out with them. You know, a lot of my clients are pointing out, my own company is like, hey, by the way, you have this EAP program. So that's one way that a lot of employers are sort of helping with the mental health aspect. Um, Also just getting information out about just maybe either meditating, taking a break. You know, it's ironic that the last week, even though I'm stuck at home, my schedule's really packed still. You know, you have these weekly calls, you have things that this is a fun call in my opinion, but so you have these weekly touch bases where you're trying to jump in with a number of people. So it's easier to schedule meetings because there's no driving, there's no going out and meet people for coffee. So it's almost easier to jam people with these meetings. So taking a break, whether it's shutting down, you know, your entire organization, say, guys, we're not going to take any calls from 12 to 1. Everyone actually go have lunch. I know you can't go out to lunch, but go hang out, watch some TV, maybe some non-COVID news. Hang out with your kids for an hour if you've got them home for the day. I'm sure you can hear mine running around in the background. So that's something a lot of companies are being mindful of. I think that in this day and age, a lot of employers are mindful of this. I think everyone wants to do the right thing. You know, there's not a lot of companies, at least I've dealt with, that are like, what's the bare minimum I can get away with during this time of crisis? A lot of people are like, how can I extend my benefits? How can I maybe reduce my hour requirement temporarily so that people who work under 30 hours can still maintain benefits? If you're going above and beyond what are quote unquote the minimums, you never run into a compliance perspective, in my opinion.
Sure. So Ryan, you mentioned you have a weekly call. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. I have a couple of organizations that I work with. Obviously, my own organization. I work at the Worksite Wellness Council of Mass, and we're doing weekly, if not even a little bit more, check-ins. It's a good way to socially connect too. You know, with video chats. Yes, you can, you know, jump on a conference call, and without the video chat, it still works. So you can get the information out, but the social aspect of getting together with colleagues, whether it's work related or with another organization, or if you know, work for a volunteer organization with your monthly board meetings, you don't have to cancel them. You know, the technology is there. You know, we're using Zoom right now, which, you know, it's free for the most part. I mean, you can upgrade to the pro levels and whatnot, but if you have a laptop and you have something that has a computer, a camera, hopefully, then you can get that social aspect that it's really important for colleagues. I can help you in a minute, buddy. Sorry.
That's all right.
Actually, my daughter was just on a Zoom meeting this morning with half of her classmates. She's got a great little program that, you know, she can do it herself. She's 9, so I guess that was something that's kind of, you know, important to let the folks know that your kids will figure it out.
Yeah, that's just it. So Ryan, how can people reach out to you? How can they learn more?
You can go to our website, cgibusinesssolutions.com. We're going to also do a weekly sort of practical COVID discussion that's going to be facilitated by our employment lawyers, Foley and Foley. So when you post this, I'll send you the link that you can send out. It's great because it's weekly, because it has to be. You know, the laws change. I believe that the actual, you know, the employee, you know, the federal government, finally, I think they passed it this morning. I thought I saw it, but that changes exactly, you know, every single week. So there's practical knowledge on that. You'll have employment lawyers actually answering questions about,
sorry, no worries.
they'll answer questions about, you know, your actual issues. You know, you can, hey, I've got electricians, and do I furlough them? Do I lay them off? You know, I all my big jobs are canceled, but I don't know when they're coming back. So those are the type of questions that, you know, it kind of falls out of the scope of, honestly, no one's really an expert in it. It's just, this stuff is all new. But having an employment lawyer kind of on the front lines with these things is really helpful.
That's huge. That's for sure. Ryan, I really appreciate you taking a couple minutes to call into the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.